My biggest fear for you is that I and God believe in you more than you do yourself. I believe that you are made on purpose and for a purpose. And today, on this podcast episode, we would love to dive into you discovering your true purpose in life and walking out by faith that in your everyday life. Welcome to the Natural Parents Podcast, where we will cover all things faith, health, family, and wealth through a biblical perspective of putting things in life that matter most back into order. We're reminded in Matthew 6:33, where Jesus said, "But seek first the kingdom of God and all of his righteousness, and all of these things will be added unto you." Join us each week as we focus on what truly matters most in this life and passing those values on to the next generation. This is the Natural Parents Podcast with Ryan and Abbie Hewkin.
If you are joining us for the first time since the expo, we are so glad that you are here. It was an amazing weekend. We got so much amazing feedback. Some were asking us to do it twice a year. Some were asking when the next one was. It was just all around amazing. Now, if you were there and you missed a speaker that you wanted to hear, or you just want to hear the replay, just go down in our description and you can click the link for our Off of Social Media community group where the replays will be.
So speaking of purpose, we really feel like this conference obviously was a step out in faith for ourselves in building what we feel like God laid on our heart with this whole concept of the natural parents, right?
Yeah.
So we get to share with you guys today. We're going to kind of recap our talk from the conference, which was really about building the boat, if you will, and kind of tying that in with scripture. But our heart's desire, it doesn't have to be in this entrepreneurial facet of life, but it could be, what are you being called to, in your marriage or inside your home, or what that looks like, and how to live this crazy life that we all feel like we are crazy living to the best and greatest of your ability. So
Yeah, and there was amazing speakers, at the expo that talked about that from different aspects. Some were, they were very comfortable in life and they were being called to do something that was very uncomfortable,
Yeah.
or they felt very unqualified for. And I feel like whenever you're getting that feeling, that's very hard to follow that and to pursue whatever that looks like. But just to have courage in that and have, I guess, patience to look and see what that really looks like for you.
Yeah, and I think it's a cliche statement, but I love it. It's that, God doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called. And I think so many people, just coming out of the conversations that were being had, were speaking to that. They're like, wow, that resonated so much with me in this aspect of, I feel I'm supposed to be doing this. I got this education, or I spent this much money on that thing or whatever, but I'm being led in a different direction now. How and why would I do that? And so I really think there's so much to be said around that. And I love the story of Noah through that concept, because for me, and I spoke about this if you heard me at the conference, but I always felt like, even growing up, when I would hear the story of Noah, it was through this idea that it was almost fairy tale like it was, this grandiose, amazing story, but almost seemed like not possible,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where it was like, what, like a boat that big and two of every kind and a cataclysmic flood, like what in the world? There's no way. But then you start to think and get into the nitty gritty of it, and later, even into the New Testament, when the Hebrew writer actually references the faith of Noah that he had to have at such a time where God was telling him to do this. He was telling him, go build the boat, right? But it had never rained on earth before. We have reference of that in Genesis, where it literally says that that God was, watering the earth by springs that swelled up from underneath. It was basically saying it had never rained. And I love the Colton Dixon song, Build a Boat. And so that was where the concept came from. I was like, okay, we're all, as parents who want to put Christ first in our families' lives, we're being called to something that is, by society standard, crazy, right? And so that's enough. But if you're even being called past that, and you're supposed to be stepping out and starting a new adventure or a business, or you're supposed to be, one woman, it was amazing. She told us this story of how she woke up at 3 a.m., saw an ad for the conference, and was like, we were going to Kansas City. And I woke up at 3 a.m., told my husband, like, we're not going to Kansas City. We have to go back to St. Louis. And so they drove to St. Louis just to come to that conference and hear these things. And something she was saying, this was a point you were making a moment ago. She was like, how do you know that you're actually on the right path. And for me, I told her, I said, it's kind of crazy, but it's opposition. Like if
Mhm.
I feel like Satan is getting inside my ears and getting inside my head and telling me, don't do that. You can't achieve this. Why would you do that? That's a crazy idea. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm on the right path. And this is definitely something that God is pointing me towards.
Right, absolutely. And that can look so different. Like you said, it doesn't have to be, being an entrepreneur. That can be homeschooling your kids. It can be starting a homestead. It can just be raising your kids in a Christian home. It can be a lot of different things. And I just feel like when you do feel that pull, you are most likely going to seem really crazy to all of the people that you surround yourself with. But that also is why it is so important to be careful on who you do surround yourself with, and are they speaking life or death over you and your decisions? Are they supporting you or calling you crazy?
Yeah.
'Cause nobody needs that. And so you'll probably notice, and that will make it even harder, that your circle may get smaller and smaller. But we have a joke that I don't know why I hate saying words like this, but it's like, shut up, just like, shut up. Don't tell anybody what you're doing or what you're working on, who is not going to support you in that or is going to think you're crazy. Because no matter how much you want to convince them that it's like all good and you're not crazy, they're going to think that and they're just going to rain on your parade. So just shut up.
Yeah. Just
Oh, I
shut up.
hate
No.
it.
Well, I just on a phone call this afternoon was talking to someone about this, and Jesus, okay, in Matthew, he asks the disciples, he says, who do people say that I am? And they all give these wild responses, right? And then Peter pipes up and says, you are the Christ, the Messiah, the Son of the living God. And Jesus is like, well done, way to go, Peter. He's Simon. I'm changing your name to Peter because on the rock of the testament that you just spoke out of your mouth, which God revealed to you, not man, I'm going to build our entire church. It's the first time Jesus references the word church and sets up this whole concept of Christianity and following Christ. And just this amazing like mountaintop moment had to have been in Peter's life. And I love the way The Chosen kind of like articulates that. If you guys have been watched that series, but Peter's kind of puffed out his chest. He's like, do you hear what Jesus had to say about me? But what's not in that episode is you turn the page or you just move to the next verse. And Jesus talks about how to accomplish this, he's going to have to die at the cross and, do all this stuff. And Peter's like, no, not on my watch, whatever. And literally like right after Jesus is in God's word, written it down, after Jesus gave Peter this glowing testimony, he said, get behind me, Satan. And it's like, wait, what? Are we talking to the same person? And it's not that people who love us, Peter loved Jesus. We know that. People that love us sometimes will speak a seed of doubt into our mind because of their concern for our well-being,
Mhm.
nothing more, nothing less, right? And so they just love us. They're scared for us, but fear has no place in the heart of a person pursuing what God has purposed them for in this life, right? And so I don't know. I'm reminded that all the time. It's like you said, keep your circle small, sure. But so many people at the conference this weekend were like, I've found my people. And it
Mhm.
just gave us this uplifting hope because there was so much doubt in our own minds and our own hearts leading towards this conference of what are we doing? Like
Yeah.
the whispers of the enemy were so loud as to like, don't do this. Nobody's coming. Why would you know what I'm saying? And it was like, we battled that and you helped me
Yes.
probably more than anything through it because I just really struggled with that concept. And it was identity crisis and all these things. But it was so clear that when people showed up and walked through the door, they were so, so, so happy because they were like, oh my goodness. I mean, we're talking over 200 people that were like, I've found my people. And we all thought we were alone and
Alone.
isolated. And we're like, wait, there's a whole community of crazies just like me. So
Yes, and I mean, there was people crying
yeah,
that they were so happy that they found their people and all of that, and it made all of the trials, like trial after trial after trial that we had leading up to this,
yeah,
so worth it. It was just I really can't say enough good, but on that, and I think that part of, whenever the people that you love, right, that you share your ideas with and they sprinkle those seeds of doubt, I feel like a lot of that comes from you maybe not having everything that you need to get started with that thing.
mm,
And I know I am guilty of that, right?
yeah,
I'm a thousand steps ahead, can think through every step. Well, we don't have this, this, and this. And you always bring me back down and you're like, Look, we're going to go here. It's all going to be fine and we will get what we need along the way." And so just as a bit of encouragement, you don't need everything to start. So even the main example I can think of right now of just really feeling inadequate but being able to do a quick start is like homeschooling, right?
Sure.
Like, well, I don't even know what we would do about this. And a lot of it I get is, well, I don't remember, what I learned in third grade. How am I going to teach that to my kids? And it's like, you think I remember what we
Right.
learned in third
Are you
grade?
smarter than a fifth grader? Remember
Right.
that show?
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, yeah. But
So many
you learn it
people.
alongside with them and you're like, oh yeah, and you are however old and can figure things out to teach them.
Sure.
And just all of that kind of stuff. Just not waiting to have it all. It's kind of like there is no perfect time to have a kid. So
Right.
just have a kid, stuff like that.
Oh, again?
No, not
Oh,
us.
not us. She says no. But the other one, the super popular talk at the thing was on homesteading. Their
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
concept, the Krecky family, was homestead now. And it was like, don't think you got to get it all together. Don't think you have to have 100 acres of land and room. Your HOA, some people are still living it. HOAs have to permit chickens. Okay,
Yeah.
well, they were like, did you know you could have rabbits and you could feed your own family off that? Like all these amazing things that you can do to get started. And I love that. So many times I think human nature is, let's get it figured out. And I, by the grace of God, I'm just like, let's figure it out along the way. Like,
Yeah.
let's not solve for hypotheticals. Let's solve for real world problems. Let's go make some. Right. And I think that's my encouragement to anybody, because if we go back to the build a boat concept, Noah was told, hey, it's going to rain. Start building a boat. What do you mean? It's never rained before. What is it? Okay. No, not trying to figure it out. Not trying to do this stuff. He just got to work. And everything I've read from biblical, scholars and study and stuff like that is there's somewhere between 50 and 100 years that he was building a boat for. And so sometimes you're so good at this as reminding me is like sowing in those seeds that we don't know what the next step of obedience is going to bring. But if we are for sure that God has brought us to that point, then we know it's going to produce a fruit, right? And so we just have to take those steps of obedience. And what I love about that concept too is that whatever it is, like I guess I don't love this word to use this as a describing terminology, but my fear or concern, I guess, would be that if you don't pursue that thing that God's laid on your heart, then it's somehow causing you to settle for less than the version of you that he knows you could be. And so that's a slippery slope, because also in the background of my phone is God doesn't love a future version of me any more than he loves me right now. And I have to sit in that. And so if you're listening to this and you're feeling condemned for not taking action, don't do that. Conviction's okay. Condemnation, there is no condemnation, therefore, those that love Christ. And so the idea here is that we are not stepping into our full version of ourselves or into our full purpose. And I want more than that for you. Like we were talking about after today, actually, I said, what's your purpose in life? What do you think that is? Right. And for you listeners, that's my question is, what do you think your purpose in life is? And if you sit with that and you think about it, then the best thing you could do is start to take action towards it.
Yeah. And so just be praying about that and like what God is leading you to and what that next step looks like, even just the smallest step in that direction. It doesn't have to be, deep dive in and cut the ties, but just that next step. So we would love to know. We'd love to hear from you. Make sure that you check out the link down below in our description that has our group that is off of social media, just a community to go for all the things. From the bottom of our hearts, we want to say thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share it with someone you know and leave a review. By doing so, we're able to grow this community of amazing people just like you and raise a generation of children that know God and do His will on earth. We'll see you next time.
This is the Natural Parents Podcast with Ryan and Abbie Hewkin.